guys, for 2020, the focus it will change every Friday. And today, the third Friday, our focus will begin with a spotlight on the Society of Black Mental Health Professionals. So listen up, in the next voice you'll hear, well, I'll just share it with you, you'll see.
You are listening to a wellness moment with the Black Society of Professional Counselors. And I am Sandra Nolan, a licensed mental health counselor. A 10-year-old girl sits on the bed after coming in from outside. Her mother arrives a few moments later. The girl told her mother when asked that school was fine and that she had no homework. She hated to lie to her mother, but the truth was she did not go to school. She spent her entire school in the garage, and he came out just before her mother came home. Tomorrow, she thought to herself, maybe I will go to school tomorrow. Then she remembers the girls who constantly and continue to tease her and push her and make fun of her. Girls who constantly laugh and point fingers at her, calling her names. No, not tomorrow. Maybe the next day, but not tomorrow. She curls up on her bed in a ball and goes to sleep to escape her feelings. What defines and constitutes bullying? Bullying is defined as to seek harm, intimidate, or coerce. It is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-aged children that involve a real or perceived power imbalance. It is repeated behavior over time. School bullying refers to all types of bullying done on school property, whether it's peer-to-peer bullying, bullying by older children where younger children are the victims, or bullying in which the teacher is either the culprit or the victim. According to the National Center for Education, nearly a third of all students aged 12 years old to 18 years old have reported having been bullied at school in 2017, and some students reported being bullied, and some daily. There's different categories of school bullying, and some of the categories overlap. Pack bullying is bullied by a group. Pack bullying may be physical or emotional and can be perpetrated in person or in cyberspace. It can take place in schoolyards, school hallways, and sports fields, bathroom, gymnasiums, and on the school bus. Individual bullying is one-to-one bullying that may take place in person or online. The Wesley report stated bullying was more prevalent in elementary schools. It can take place everywhere that pack bullying can, and often takes place in smaller areas such as bathrooms. Physical bullying takes the form of physical abuse, such as pushing, hitting, fighting, spitting, knocking books from their hands, and tripping them in classrooms. Emotional bullying involves factors such as insults, derogatory remarks, name-calling, and teasing. Also, bullies attempt to ostracize the victim, such as leaving them out of events or ignoring them, which is sometimes referred to as social bullying, which is distinguished from verbal bullying. Cyberbullying is bullying that takes place online. It can come from emails and chat rooms, social medias, text messages, Instagram messages, websites, postings, blogs, or a combination of many. Cyberbullies may conceal their identity so that their identity victim experienced an anonymous attack. The content of cyberbullying can consist of all types of content mentioned in emotional bullying and can include postings, real or fake, insults, threats, gossip, private information, and impersonating someone by individuals or groups. Out of all the bullying done, this seems to be the worst because it can be put over the internet where many children can be reached in a short amount of time. There's no way to defend yourself against these attacks. Once it is out there, it is impossible to take back. And once it's posted, it's out there. Bullying attacks all ages, races, cultures, and genders and religious beliefs. Bullying has no preference, nor does it care how much money you have or how popular you are. You can be popular today and on social media being bullied tomorrow. In 2018, there were 82 school shooting incidents in the United States, the highest that there's ever been since 1970, and many of the shooters had a history of being bullied in school. Many kids who are bullied often experience physical issues, school issues, and mental health issues. In mental health, it takes the form of depression and/or anxiety with symptoms of feelings of sadness, loneliness, change in sleep and eating patterns, loss of interest in activities they used to enjoy, a decrease in academic achievements, skipping school or dropping out of school, low self-esteem and low self-worth, feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, and the victims of bullies are at a greater risk for suicide and self-harm. We know, according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, that bullying behavior and suicide-related behavior are closely related. This means youth who report an involvement with bullying behavior are more likely to have higher levels of suicide-related behavior and self-harm than anybody else. These children do not report bullying. We also know that according to the CDC, any involvement with bullying behavior is one stressor that may significantly contribute to feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, because many times the victim do not know who the bullies are or how to rectify the situation. A child who is bullied often hesitates or is afraid to tell parents due to fear of retaliation or making matters worse. Therefore, it is important to keep the lines of communication open with your child so that they will feel comfortable talking to you. Take all bullying seriously. Do not treat it as if it was something that everyone goes through or tell them that it will go away. Listen to them without interrupting. Express sympathy and confidence that the problem can be solved. Do not show anger or shock. And above all, do not immediately go to their classrooms or talk to their principals. Do not talk to the parent of the child who is suspected of doing the bullying. The more calmer and patient you are, the better your child will feel. It is important to ask your child permission before you talk to the teacher or principal. If the child does not want you to talk to them, then let them know if the matter becomes worse, you will have to talk to them. And have your child promise to let you know if it gets worse. This way, the child can feel that he or she has some control over the situation as well as your support. Above all, keep an eye on your child for behavioral changes. Build a good relationship with teachers. Be present in school events. This way, the bullies will know that your child is not alone. And in some cases, your child may need to talk with a mental health specialist about their feelings. If so, do not hesitate to get them in professional help. Bullying needs to be addressed calmly and solved as soon as possible. For further information, go to girlshealth.gov, stopbullying.gov, stopoutbullying.gov. You have been listening to a wellness moment with the Society of Black Health Professionals, and my name is Sandra Nolan. I am a licensed mental health counselor. Thank you for listening.
So I want to say welcome. Welcome, Crystal Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I am really excited about today's fireside chat. Actually, it's going to be a more education and training from Crystal, but the focus is depression. Because depression, it seems like it's very high this time of season. Is there a reason why that actually is right now?
Yeah, we have holidays around this time. We have grief. There could be times where people have lost loved ones around the holidays, and that could bring depression. And then the weather plays a huge part as well, not having enough sun um, exposure, and that's a real thing, which is called seasonal affective disorder.
Okay. And does it affect, I know you're going to go into this, but does it affect women more than men, men more than women? Is there, it does?
It affects women and men the same way when it
Okay.
comes to the weather.
Okay. All right. Okay, I just want to just fade myself out and then give the floor to you. Okay?
All
All
right.
right, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm here today to talk about depression. I would like to share important facts because the more you know, the better we do when it comes to knowing about our mental health. So depression is a real illness. Sadness is something we all experience. It is a normal reaction to difficult times in a life and usually passes with a little time. When a person has depression, it interferes with daily life and normal functioning. It can also cause pain for both the person with depression and those who care about him or her. Doctors call this condition depressive disorder or clinical depression. It is a real illness. It's not a sign of a person's weakness or character flaw. You can't just snap out of it. It's clinically called depression. Most people who experience depression needs treatment to get better. So let's just talk about some signs, some symptoms when it comes to knowing whether you have depression or know someone who may be dealing with increased sadness. Sadness is only a small part of depression. Some people with depression may not feel sadness at all. Depression has many other symptoms, including physical symptoms, physical pains. If you have been experiencing the signs or symptoms of depression for more than 2 weeks, that's depression. So some of the symptoms we have persistent sad, anxiousness or empty mood feeling, feelings of hopelessness, feelings of guilt, feelings of worthlessness or hopelessness, loss of interest or pleasure when it comes to doing hobbies or activities. You may experience decreased energy, fatigue, or being slowed down or feel like you don't want to do anything. Difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions. It could also affect your sleep pattern as well. Early morning awakening, or you find yourself tossing, turning at night. Appetite might be impacted as well. You might be eating more, or you might be eating less. Suicidal thoughts, thoughts that want to harm yourself. There might be some restlessness or irritability, or there could be some just persistent physical symptoms. So, what are the factors that play a role in depression? Many factors may play a role in depression, including genetics, brain biology, and chemistry, and life events such as trauma, loss of a loved one, dealing with difficult relationship, or early childhood experience, or any stressful situation that you're maybe going through right now. Depression can happen at any age, young or old, but often begins in the ages of being a teenager or your early 20s or 30s. Most chronic mood and anxiety disorders in adults begin as high levels of anxiety in children. In fact, high levels of anxiety as a child could mean a higher risk of depression as an adult. Depression can also co-occur with medical illnesses such as diabetes, cancer, heart disease, or Parkinson's disease. Depression can make these conditions worse or vice versa. Sometimes medications taken for these illnesses may also cause side effects that could contribute to depression. A doctor experienced in treating these complicated illnesses can help work out the best treatment strategy for you if this is what you're experiencing. So let's get into what are different types of depression. There are different several types. We got the first one, the major one is major depressive That's severe symptoms that interfere with your ability to work, ability to sleep, study, eat, or just enjoy your life overall. An episode can occur only once in a person's lifetime, but often a person has several episodes throughout their life. Another popular one that people probably heard a lot about is postpartum depression, which is more serious, and it's called baby blues, that many women experience after giving birth. When hormonal and physical changes and new responsibility of caring for a newborn can be very overwhelming. It is estimated that 10 to 15% of women experience postpartum depression after giving birth. So that is a real thing. When someone gives birth, they could be experiencing depression. Another form of depression is called the seasonal affective disorder, which I had mentioned earlier, which is characterized by the onset of depression during the winter months, when there is less natural sunlight. The depression generally lives during spring and summer. SAD may be effectively treated with light therapy, but nearly half of those with seasonal affective disorder do not get better with light alone. So you might have to have antidepressant and individual counseling that could help reduce those symptoms. And then the last one I like to touch on is bipolar disorder, which is different from depression. The reason it's included is because someone with bipolar disorder experiences episodes of extreme moods, low moods, which could be depression, but a person with bipolar disorder also experiences extreme high moods, which is called mania. So let's get into another part of depression, how it affects people in different ways. So let's get into women. Women with depression do not experience all the symptoms. However, women with depression typically have symptoms of sadness, worthlessness, and guilt. Depression is more common among women than men. Biological, lifestyle, hormonal, and physiological factors that are unique to women may be linked to their higher depression rate. For example, women are especially vulnerable to developing postpartum depression after giving birth, when hormonal and physical changes and new responsibility for caring for a newborn can be very overwhelming. So, how do depression look like when men are experiencing it? So, men often experience depression differently than women. While women with depression are most likely to have feelings of sadness, worthlessness, and excessive guilt, men are more likely to be very sad, irritable. They may lose interest, or when hobbies that they enjoy doing, or they also could have difficulties with sleeping. Men may turn to alcohol or drugs when they are depressed. They also may become frustrated, discouraged, irritable. A lot of times it can show up in anger and sometimes being abusive. Some men may throw themselves into work to avoid thinking about their depression with family and friends, or behave recklessly. And although more women attempt suicide, many more men die from suicide in the United States. What does depression look like in children? Before puberty, girls and boys are equally likely to develop depression. A child with depression may pretend to be sick, refuse to go to school, cling to their parents, or worry about a parent that they may die. Because normal behaviors vary from one childhood stage to another, it can be difficult to tell whether a child is just going through a temporary phase or is suffering from real depression. Sometimes the parents become worried about how their child's behavior has changed, or a teacher might mention that your child doesn't seem to be him or herself. In such a case, if you visit to the child's family doctor, the pediatrician will rule out physical symptoms. The doctor will probably suggest that the child be evaluated, preferably through a mental health professional who specializes in the treatment of children. Most chronic mood disorders, such as depression, begin as high levels of anxiety within children. All right, let's talk about teens. The teen years can be tough. Teens are forming at this stage identity apart from their parents, grappling with gender issues, emerging sexuality, and making independent decisions for the first time in their lives. Occasionally, bad moods are to be expected, but the depression is different. Older children and teens with depression may sulk, get into trouble at school, be negative, irritable, and feel misunderstood. If you're unsure if an adolescent in your life is depressed or just being a teenager, consider how long the symptoms have been present. How severe are they? And how different the teen is acting from his or her usual self. Teens with depression may also have other disorders such as anxiety, eating disorders, or substance abuse. They may also have a higher risk for suicide. Children and teenagers usually rely on parents, teachers, other caregivers to recognize their suffering to get them the treatment that they need. Many teens don't know where to go for mental health treatment or believe that treatment won't help. Others don't get help because they think depressive symptoms may just be a part of a typical stress of school or being a teen. Some teens worry what other people may think when they seek medical care. Depression often persists, recurs, or continues into adulthood, especially if left untreated. If you suspect your child or teenager in your life is suffering from depression, speak up. Speak up now about it. So here are some quick tips that you can talk to your children who may be dealing with depression, your teenagers. Offer emotional support, understanding, patience, encouragement. That's the number one thing. You got to be making yourself available to talk to your teenager or your child and be able to let them know that you're there for them emotionally. Talk to your child, and it doesn't have to be regarding depression, but they just want a listening ear. Never discount the feelings of your child expresses, but point out realities and offer hope. Never ignore comments about suicide. Let me repeat that again. Never ignore comments about suicide. So if you have a teen that is walking around, not themselves, and then all of a sudden they're talking about they want to die, seek help, please. Remind your child that with time and treatment, depression will lift, things will get better. Okay, what does depression look like in older people? Having depression for a long period of time is not a normal part of growing older. Most older adults feel satisfied with their lives despite having more illnesses or physical problems. But depression in older adults may be difficult to recognize because they may show different, less obvious symptoms. Sometimes older people who are depressed they may appear to feel tired, have trouble sleeping, or seem grumpy and irritable. Confusion or attention problems caused by depression can sometimes look like Alzheimer's disease or other brain disorders. Older adults may also have more medical conditions such as heart disease, stroke, or cancer, which may cause depressive symptoms. Or they may be taking medication with side effects that contribute to depression. Sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish between grief from major depression. Grief after loss of a loved one is a normal reaction and generally does not require professional mental treatment. However, grief that is complicated and lasts for a very long time, following a grief, loss of a loved one may require treatment. Older adults who have depression when they were younger or at risk for developing depression later in life than those who did not have the illness early in life. So depression is treatable. There's medications, there's individual counseling, there's group support. In a combination of all those things, depression is treatable. So let's get into beyond treatments, other things that you can do on your own that help with the depression, or if you're feeling increased sadness. Try to be active and exercise. Go to a movie, a ball game, or another event or activity that you once enjoyed. Once you're physically active, you're able to let those emotions out, being physically active. Set realistic goals for yourself. What are things that you want to do in life? Things that you probably never even thought that you could do. Set those realistic goals. Break up large tasks into smaller ones. Set some priorities and do what you can as much as you can. Try to spend time with other people and confide in trusted friends or relatives. Try not to isolate yourself and let others help you. Expect your mood to improve gradually, not immediately. Do not expect to suddenly snap out of your depression. Often during treatment for depression, sleep and appetite will begin to improve before your decreased moods lift. Postpone important decisions, such as getting married or divorced or changing jobs, until you feel better. Discuss decisions with others you know who know you well and have more objective view of your situation. Remember that positive thinking will replace negative thoughts as your depression responds to treatment. Continue to educate yourself about depression. And remember, you're not alone. Major depressive disorder is one of the most common mental disorders in the United States. You are not alone. Sometimes living with depression can seem overwhelming. So build a support system around you. Your family and friends are a great place to start. Talk to trusted family members or friends that will help you to understand how you are feeling and that you're following your doctor's recommendations to treat yourself. In addition to your treatment, you should also join support groups. There are these are not psychotherapy groups, but some may find that added support that could be helpful. At the meetings, people share experiences, feelings, information, and coping strategies for living with depression. What if you think your loved ones have depression? If you know someone who is depressed, it affects you too. The most important thing you can do to help your friend or relative to get diagnosis and a treatment. You may need to make an appointment and go with him or her to the doctor. Encourage your loved ones to stay in treatment, to seek different treatment options if no improvement occurs within or recurs after 6 to 8 weeks. To help your friend or relative, here are some points or things that you could do. Offer emotional support, understanding, patience, and encouragement. Talk to him or her and listen carefully. Never dismiss feelings, but point out realities and hope. Never ignore comments about suicide and report them to your loved ones or therapist or the doctor. Invite your loved ones out for walks, outings, and other activities to get them active. Keep trying if he or she declines, but don't push him or her to take one or too many too soon. Provide assistance in getting the doctor's appointments. Remind your loved ones that with time and treatment, depression will lift. So again, depression is real. It's a real thing. Young and old, it doesn't discriminate. Black or white, Hispanic, Chinese, black, it doesn't matter. If you're feeling some type of way when you're depressed, don't want to get out of bed, you're having suicidal thoughts, that's the time that you want to seek help. Because again, people aren't mind readers. You got to be able to express and verbalize. If you aren't able to do that, write it down. Let people know that you're seeking help, that something just is off, something's not right. And depression is real. And that's happening every day, and things are getting worse with society, with watching the news. We have so much just sadness going around. So when you find those things are really affecting you in a really hurtful, harmful way, we got to be able to speak up and say, you know what, I need some help. I need help for my depression, my moods.
You have been listening to Speak Now with Gena and Crystal Kelly, right here at 95.7 FM, WELT.